What if loneliness wasn't your enemy, but your greatest teacher? How many men do you know, maybe even yourself, who walk through crowded rooms, scroll through endless screens, left with others, yet feel an emptiness they can't explain? You tell yourself you're fine, that being alone means you're independent. But deep down, there's that quiet voice whispering, something's missing. Here's the truth most men never face. Loneliness doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. It strips away every distraction, every illusion of control, and shows you who you really are. When the world stops clapping not in this episode, you will discover 12 fatal mistakes lonely men must avoid. Mistakes that don't just keep you single or isolated, but slowly erode your self-respect, your discipline, and your peace of mind. And at the very end, I'll share the most dangerous mistake of all, the one that hides beneath strength, pride, and silence, yet ruins more men than heartbreak ever could. So stay with me, because this conversation might change the way you see loneliness forever. Loneliness doesn't begin when people leave you. It begins the moment you stop understanding who you are. Most men think their suffering comes from external rejection, from women who walked away, friends who disappeared, or society that forgot them. But the truth runs deeper. The root of loneliness isn't outside you, it's inside. In the quiet war between who you think you are and who you truly are. When that war drags on too long, men start building masks. They play roles: the provider, the achiever, the silent stoic. Not because these roles reflect who they are, but because they protect who they fear to be. Vulnerable, lost, unworthy. This is the tragedy of modern man. He confuses image with identity. The Stoics warned us about this illusion thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But what happens when a man no longer knows his own mind? He becomes dependent on noise, on others' approval to feel alive, on routine to feel safe, on distraction to avoid silence. In this section, we explore the 3 core mistakes of self-perception that quietly destroy a man's peace. Waiting for validation instead of defining his own worth, confusing solitude with worthlessness, blaming circumstances instead of building character. Each one feeds the next, forming a cycle of weakness that keeps him stuck, frustrated, and quietly broken. But Stoic philosophy offers an antidote. It doesn't give comfort, it gives clarity. Because before a man can conquer loneliness, he must first conquer the lies he tells himself. So let's begin with the first and most dangerous mistake of all: waiting for someone else to tell you that you matter. Every man, at some point, falls into this quiet trap: the need to be seen, approved, or praised before believing he's good enough. It starts small. A compliment from a woman feels like oxygen. A well done from a boss lights up your day. A few likes on a post suddenly make you feel visible again. And slowly, without noticing, your entire sense of worth starts depending on what others think about you, not what you know about yourself. This is one of the most fatal mistakes lonely men make. They outsource their self-respect. They wait for a validation, as if confidence was something to be handed to them. But every time you wait for someone else's approval, you give them quiet control over your peace. Society feeds this dependency. You're told your value lies in what you achieve, how much you earn, or how attractive you appear. And when no one notices your effort, it feels like proof that you don't matter. But here's the truth. People are too busy fighting their own invisible battles to constantly reassure you. Depending on their recognition is like chasing smoke. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "If you seek the approval of others, you will become their slave." That's not poetry, it's a warning. Because the moment you need the crowd to define you, you become whatever they demand. You smile when they smile. You hide your pain when they frown. You live in fear of their silence. The more you chase validation, the weaker you become. Because what can be given can also be taken away. When no one texts you back, when no one says good job, when your effort goes unseen, that's when your real test begins. That's when the Stoic path demands you ask yourself, can I stand tall even when no one claps? Because true peace begins when you no longer need the applause. If waiting for a validation weakens you, then building inner standards is how you reclaim power. The Stoics never chased approval. They chased alignment. Not alignment with the crowd, but with virtue, with reason, discipline, and truth. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask whether people admired him. He asked only, was my action guided by justice, courage, self-control, and wisdom? That question became his compass. Because once your standards come from within, no storm outside can move you. So, how does a modern man apply this? It begins by redefining success, not as popularity, but as consistency. You don't measure your worth by how many notice your work, but by whether you lived according to your own code. Did you act with integrity today? Did you keep your word even when no one was watching? Did you speak with calm when anger was easier? If yes, you've already won. The Stoics believed that a man's value lies in what he controls, his judgments, his actions, and his responses. Everything else, opinions, reputation, outcomes, belongs to fortune, not character. When you build inner standards, you become free from the emotional economy of approval. The silence of others no longer feels like rejection. It feels like space. Space to grow, to think, to live undistracted. Seneca wrote, "A man is great not because he is praised, but because he is worthy of praise." That difference changes everything. Because worthiness doesn't depend on recognition. It depends on effort. So, begin there. Write down the principles that define your best self, not the image you show the world, but the man you'd respect in private. Live by that quietly, every day. Soon you'll notice the applause you used to crave becomes irrelevant. Because peace is louder than praise. One of the cruelest lies modern men believe is this: if you're alone, you must be unworthy. The world teaches that constant connection equals value. That being wanted means you matter. That silence means you failed. But this belief is poison. Because when the noise fades, when no one calls, when the messages stop, when weekends arrive with no plans, you start to equate aloneness with rejection. Loneliness doesn't begin when people leave you. It begins the moment you stop understanding who you are. Most men think their suffering comes from external rejection, from women who walked away, friends who disappeared, or society that forgot them. But the truth runs deeper. The root of loneliness isn't outside you, it's inside. In the quiet war between who you think you are and who you truly are. When that war drags on too long, men start building masks. They play roles: the provider, the achiever, the silent stoic. Not because these roles reflect who they are, but because they protect who they fear to be. Vulnerable, lost, unworthy. This is the tragedy of modern man. He confuses image with identity. The Stoics warned us about this illusion thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But what happens when a man no longer knows his own mind? He becomes dependent on noise, on others' approval to feel alive, on routine to feel safe, on distraction to avoid silence. In this section, we explore the 3 core mistakes of self-perception that quietly destroy a man's peace. Waiting for validation instead of defining his own worth, confusing solitude with worthlessness, blaming circumstances instead of building character. Each one feeds the next, forming a cycle of weakness that keeps him stuck, frustrated, and quietly broken. But Stoic philosophy offers an antidote. It doesn't give comfort, it gives clarity. Because before a man can conquer loneliness, he must first conquer the lies he tells himself. So let's begin with the first and most dangerous mistake of all: waiting for someone else to tell you that you matter. Every man, at some point, falls into this quiet trap: the need to be seen, approved, or praised before believing he's good enough. It starts small. A compliment from a woman feels like oxygen. A well done from a boss lights up your day. A few likes on a post suddenly make you feel visible again. And slowly, without noticing, your entire sense of worth starts depending on what others think about you, not what you know about yourself. This is one of the most fatal mistakes lonely men make. They outsource their self-respect. They wait for a validation, as if confidence was something to be handed to them. But every time you wait for someone else's approval, you give them quiet control over your peace. Society feeds this dependency. You're told your value lies in what you achieve, how much you earn, or how attractive you appear. And when no one notices your effort, it feels like proof that you don't matter. But here's the truth: people are too busy fighting their own invisible battles to constantly reassure you. Depending on their recognition is like chasing smoke. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "If you seek the approval of others, you will become their slave." That's not poetry, it's a warning. Because the moment you need the crowd to define you, you become whatever they demand. You smile when they smile. You hide your pain when they frown. You live in fear of their silence. The more you chase validation, the weaker you become. Because what can be given can also be taken away. When no one texts you back, when no one says good job, when your effort goes unseen, that's when your real test begins. That's when the Stoic path demands you ask yourself, can I stand tall even when no one claps? Because true peace begins when you no longer need the applause. If waiting for validation weakens you, then building inner standards is how you reclaim power. The Stoics never chased approval. They chased alignment. Not alignment with the crowd, but with virtue, with reason, discipline, and truth. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask whether people admired him. He asked only, was my action guided by justice, courage, self-control, and wisdom? That question became his compass. Because once your standards come from within, no storm outside can move you. So, how does a modern man apply this? It begins by redefining success, not as popularity, but as consistency. You don't measure your worth by how many notice your work, but by whether you lived according to your own code. Did you act with integrity today? Did you keep your word even when no one was watching? Did you speak with calm when anger was easier? If yes, you've already won. The Stoics believe that a man's value lies in what he controls, his judgments, his actions, and his responses. Everything else, opinions, reputation, outcomes, belongs to fortune, not character. When you build inner standards, you become free from the emotional economy of approval. The silence of others no longer feels like rejection. It feels like space. Space to grow, to think, to live undistracted. Seneca wrote, "A man is great not because he is praised, but because he is worthy of praise." That difference changes everything. Because worthiness doesn't depend on recognition. It depends on effort. So, begin there. Write down the principles that define your best self, not the image you show the world, but the man you'd respect in private. Live by that quietly, every day. Soon you'll notice the applause you used to crave becomes irrelevant. Because peace is louder than praise. One of the cruelest lies modern men believe is this: if you're alone, you must be unworthy. The world teaches that constant connection equals value. That being wanted means you matter. That silence means you failed. But this belief is poison, because when the noise fades, when no one calls, when the messages stop, when weekends arrive with no plans, you start to equate aloneness with rejection. You begin asking dangerous questions. What's wrong with me? Why does no one choose me? And those questions don't invite growth. They invite despair. The truth is, solitude and worth have never been the same thing. Seneca wrote, "The greatest men are most alone, not because they were unloved, but because solitude was where they met themselves without disguise." Being alone doesn't mean you've been abandoned. It means you've been returned to yourself. But many men can't stand that return. They've built their entire identity on being needed, being admired, being busy. Take away those roles, and they no longer know who they are. That's why their silence feels unbearable, because it exposes how empty their self-definition truly is. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the absence of purpose. You can be surrounded by friends and still feel disconnected if your soul has no direction. Likewise, you can spend weeks in solitude yet feel grounded if your life is rooted in clarity. The Stoics understood that external isolation is neutral. It's your interpretation that creates suffering. If you see solitude as punishment, you'll crumble. If you see it as practice, you will rise. So beware this mistake. Solitude is not proof that you're unworthy. It's proof that you've been given time to rediscover who you are without the world's interference. Solitude, when approached with intention, becomes the most powerful forge of character a man can enter. It strips away distractions, forces confrontation with the self, and reveals what truly matters. The Stoics saw solitude not as emptiness, but as training ground for the soul. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor surrounded by advisors, armies, and chaos, wrote his deepest reflections alone, at night, in silence. His solitude wasn't isolation, it was alignment. He used it to sharpen his mind, not drown in it. That's the difference between loneliness and solitude. One consumes you, the other refines you. To turn solitude into strength, you must first stop fighting it. Stop filling every quiet moment with noise, the scrolling, the endless videos, the background chatter meant to silence your own thoughts. Instead, listen. Listen to the discomfort, to the thoughts that rise when you're not performing, to the parts of yourself you've ignored while chasing approval. Those moments of raw silence are not punishment. They're the beginning of self-mastery. Seneca said, "He who is content to be alone is either God or a beast." He meant that solitude is the ultimate test of balance. Without purpose, it becomes madness. With purpose, it becomes freedom. So how do you practice this? Use your solitude deliberately. Reflect. Journal your thoughts each morning as if writing to a friend you deeply respect. Discipline. Create small, daily routines that anchor your day. Exercise, study, meditation. Observe. Notice your reactions when you feel lonely. That's your ego revealing its dependency. When you fill your solitude with intention, you stop waiting for others to complete you. You realize that silence isn't the absence of life. It's the sound of strength forming. And once you learn to stand firm in solitude, you become untouchable. When life turns cold, most men point fingers. They blame the economy for their failures, their ex for their pain, their upbringing for their habits, or society for not being fair. It's a comforting illusion to believe that something out there is responsible for everything in here. But the Stoics call this what it truly is, a surrender of power. Because the more you blame circumstances, the weaker you become. You trade your ability to act for the right to complain. And while it might feel satisfying for a moment, it's not my fault. It's the system. It's people. It's luck. That satisfaction rots quickly. It turns into bitterness, cynicism, and quiet despair. The truth is, life will always hand you unfair cards. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, loss, and plague while ruling Rome. Epictetus lived as a crippled slave. Seneca was forced to take his own life, yet none of them blamed their circumstances, because they knew something most modern men forget. Character is forged through resistance, not comfort. When you focus only on what's wrong around you, you blind yourself to what could grow within you. You stop asking, "How can I adapt?" and instead say, "Why me?" That question kills progress. Every hardship hides an invitation, not to despair, but to develop. When work is unfair, you learn patience. When people disappoint you, you learn boundaries. When life feels empty, you learn resilience. Epictetus said, "Don't wish for things to happen as you want them to. Wish for them to happen as they do, and you will have peace." That isn't passivity, it's power. Because once you stop blaming the wind, you learn to steer your own ship. So remember, circumstances expose character. They don't define it. The man who blames remains stuck. The man who builds becomes unshakable. Every Stoic principle can be distilled into one simple truth: control what you can, accept what you can't. This idea, known as the dichotomy of control, is the foundation of all Stoic strength. It sounds simple, but living by it requires brutal honesty and daily discipline. Modern men waste enormous energy trying to control the uncontrollable. Other people's opinions, outcomes of situations, timing of success, or the affection of those who stopped caring. They replay conversations in their heads, write imaginary arguments, and scroll through reminders of what they've lost, as if obsession could rewrite reality. But it never does. It only weakens the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "External things are not the problem. It's your judgment about them. And you have the power to wipe that out right now." That's the Stoic's freedom, not the absence of struggle, but the ability to stay centered while the world moves unpredictably. So, how do you live this principle in daily life? Start each morning with the question, what today lies within my control? Your thoughts, your effort, your reactions, everything else, traffic, people's behavior, the past, the future, belongs to fortune, not you. Once you separate the two, peace follows naturally. You stop fighting reality and begin mastering response. You start to act from reason, not impulse. When someone disrespects you, you choose composure over revenge. When plans fall apart, you adjust instead of despairing. When loneliness creeps in, you observe it, learn from it, and carry on with discipline. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." That is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because the man who knows what he can control can never be controlled by anything else. Before you can master loneliness, you must first master perception, because the mind is where isolation either imprisons you or liberates you. In this section, we explored 3 silent traps that most men fall into, and the Stoic antidotes that can set them free. The first mistake was waiting for validation. You learned that when you depend on others to define your worth, you hand them quiet control over your emotions. The Stoic remedy: build inner standards. Judge yourself not by applause, but by integrity, by whether you acted with justice, courage, and discipline today. Once your compass points inward, the noise of approval fades into background static. The second mistake was confusing solitude with worthlessness. Society teaches men that being alone means being unwanted. But solitude, in truth, is where transformation begins. The Stoic response: turn solitude into strength. Use your quiet hours as a forge, to reflect, to train, to clarify you when no one's watching. Because a man who is at peace alone becomes a force among others. The third mistake was blaming circumstances instead of building character. That mindset breeds weakness. It convinces you that life owes you something, when in fact, it owes you nothing but opportunity. The Stoic solution: control the controllables. Stop cursing the storm. Learn to steer through it. You may not control the winds, but you can always adjust your sails. These 3 principles form the first wall of Stoic strength. Define your worth internally. Transform solitude into mastery. Discipline your focus toward what's within your control. This is where loneliness becomes your teacher instead of your tormentor. Because once you reclaim your mind, no external silence can shake you again. Next, we move to the outer battlefield. How men sabotage themselves in social behavior while trying to escape their inner void. That's where the loneliness deepens, and where the Stoic path becomes truly tested. After a man loses his sense of self, the next battlefield he enters is the social world, the illusion of connection. Many lonely men think the cure for emptiness is company. They rush toward people, noise, and attention, believing that being surrounded will heal the silence inside. But what they don't realize is this: loneliness doesn't end when others arrive. It ends when you stop escaping yourself. This is where most men fall. They try to rebuild their confidence externally, through social validation, romantic pursuit, or public image. And for a while, it works. The laughter feels like medicine. The messages, the likes, the brief touches of approval. They make you forget, but only for a moment. Because once the noise fades, the same emptiness returns, louder than before. The Stoics warned about this illusion long ago. Seneca wrote, "The crowd is not company. Faces are not friends." He understood what modern men forget. Presence and connection are not the same. You can be surrounded by hundreds and still be invisible if your relationships are built on dependency, not purpose. In this section, we explore 3 fatal mistakes in social behavior, the traps that keep men emotionally enslaved even in the presence of others. Seeking value through attention, the addiction to being noticed, avoiding relationships instead of learning to build them, confusing coldness with strength, mistaking numbness for control. Each of these mistakes stems from fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of being ordinary. But the Stoic path replaces fear with awareness. It teaches you that real strength doesn't hide from connection. It refines it, because how you interact with others reveals how deeply you understand yourself. In the age of endless scrolling, attention has become the new currency, and too many men are going broke chasing it. They measure their worth by the number of followers, messages, or glances they receive. Every notification gives a temporary high, a quick reminder that they still exist in someone else's world. But the problem with attention is simple. It never lasts. The modern man has mistaken visibility for value. He believes that if people are watching, he must be doing something right. But attention doesn't equal respect, and it certainly doesn't equal peace. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. The more you consume, the emptier you become. This addiction runs deep because attention mimics the feeling of love. It stimulates the same reward centers in the brain. It tells you you matter, but it's a lie, because once the spotlight shifts, your sense of worth collapses with it. That's why many men feel anxious when they're unseen and depressed when ignored. They've built their confidence on borrowed eyes. The Stoics would call this a trap of externals. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The applause of others is a strange noise, and you should not be guided by it." He understood that fame, recognition, even affection, all belong to the realm of things you can't control. When you depend on them, you give away your stability. The more you crave attention, the more fragile you become. Because now your peace depends on something you can't predict, the shifting moods of strangers. That's not strength. That's slavery disguised as relevance. The moment you stop chasing attention and start cultivating intention, your energy shifts. Instead of asking, who noticed me today? You begin asking, what did I build today? And that's where the Stoic solution begins. The cure for attention addiction isn't isolation, it's intention. Because what you truly crave isn't the gaze of others, it's direction, meaning, purpose. The Stoics taught that when a man lives with intention, he no longer needs to be seen, because every action already speaks for him. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not for an audience, but for himself. He never intended to be famous, yet his private reflections outlived empires. That's the paradox. The men who stop chasing recognition often create the most lasting impact. They act not to impress, but to express discipline and virtue through their deeds. So, how do you live with intention instead of attention? Start by changing one question. Instead of asking, who's watching me? Ask, why am I doing this? Every post, every project, every choice, anchor it in purpose, not approval. If your motive is genuine, the outcome doesn't matter. You've already succeeded by staying aligned with your values. Seneca said, "A man who follows reason in all things is both tranquil and active at once." That's what intention gives you. A quiet mind in a noisy world. When you act from purpose, you don't need applause to stay motivated. The work itself becomes its own reward. Think of your daily routine as a temple of discipline. You wake up, you train your body, you feed your mind, you serve your duties, not because anyone's clapping, but because that's who you've chosen to be. Over time, that consistency builds an aura no spotlight can imitate. Attention fades the moment people look away. Intention endures because it's rooted in clarity, not reaction. The Stoic man doesn't chase relevance. He embodies purpose. And in a world obsessed with being seen, nothing is more powerful than the man who simply is after being hurt, rejected, or betrayed. Many men make a silent vow, I'll never let anyone close again. It sounds like strength, but it's actually fear dressed as wisdom. You convince yourself that cutting people off means you're independent, that isolation is protection. But what you're really doing is building walls instead of boundaries. There's a difference. Boundaries protect your peace while keeping the door to connection open. Walls, on the other hand, protect your ego, but they also keep out warmth, growth, and trust. And behind those walls, loneliness festers like a wound that never closes. This mistake is especially dangerous because it feels safe. You tell yourself, people are fake, relationships are drama. I'm better alone, and yes, solitude can heal, but only if it's temporary and intentional. If it becomes a lifestyle, it hardens you. You begin to confuse emotional numbness with maturity. Seneca warned, we are members of one great body. If you separate yourself from the whole, you will perish like a limb cut from the body. He understood that connection isn't a weakness, it's a human necessity. Even Stoics, who prized independence, valued community. Marcus Aurelius saw himself as part of the universe's fabric, not an isolated thread. When you avoid relationships out of fear, you stop learning empathy. You forget how to cooperate, how to forgive, how to compromise. You become efficient but empty, disciplined but detached. And the irony, the more you avoid being hurt, the more fragile you become. Because strength isn't built by hiding from pain. It's built by surviving it. The goal isn't to avoid relationships. It's to learn how to build them wisely. To stop choosing isolation as a shield and start choosing discernment as a strategy. That's what the Stoic path teaches next. The Stoic doesn't reject relationships. He redefines them. He doesn't seek people to fill his emptiness. He seeks people to sharpen his character, because every interaction, when seen clearly, is either a mirror or a lesson. Some show you who you are, others teach you who not to be. Epictetus said, when someone is provoking you, Remember, he is showing you where your weakness lies. That's the essence of Stoic connection. You engage with others not to escape yourself, but to understand yourself better. To connect with purpose means to enter relationships from wholeness, not hunger. Most men approach people like beggars asking for validation, desperate to be liked, noticed, or loved. The Stoic man enters as an equal, bringing peace rather than seeking it. He gives respect freely, love wisely, and attention deliberately, because he knows attachment without awareness becomes dependency. So how does one practice this in a chaotic, emotional world? Start with presence. When you talk to someone, listen completely, not waiting for your turn to speak, not performing to impress. True presence is rare, and it builds trust faster than charm ever could. Next, choose relationships that align with your values, not your voids. You don't need a crowd, you need a circle. Seneca advised, associate with those who make you better. That's not arrogance, it's maintenance. If someone constantly feeds your ego but starves your growth, that's not friendship. That's comfort disguised as connection. Finally, remember this: a Stoic's heart is open, but his peace is guarded. He loves deeply, but never desperately, because real strength is the ability to stay kind without losing composure, to care without clinging. That's how you build bonds that empower instead of entrap. In a world that glorifies emotional control, many men mistake numbness for power. They believe that to be strong means to never care, never feel, never show. They turn Stoicism, the philosophy, into Stoic posturing, a hard mask that hides insecurity. But true Stoicism was never about suppressing emotions. It was about mastering them. The modern cold man prides himself on being detached. He says, "I don't need anyone," as if isolation were a badge of honor. But underneath that armor often lies fear. Fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen. He calls it strength, but it's actually avoidance wrapped in pride. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, wrote more about compassion than conquest. He reminded himself daily, you were born to work together with others. He didn't see empathy as weakness. He saw it as discipline, the ability to stay kind when the world turns cruel. Coldness, on the other hand, is fragility disguised as control. It's an emotional lockdown that prevents growth, because when you cut off pain, you also cut off joy. When you refuse to feel disappointment, you also numb your capacity to love, to inspire, to connect. Many men use coldness as a defense mechanism because warmth once got them hurt. But refusing to feel is not healing, it's hiding. It's like closing the curtains after a storm, pretending the sun no longer exists. The Stoics believed in emotional strength, not emotional absence. Seneca wrote, "He who feels too much is weak, but he who feels nothing is already dead." Balance, not denial, is the goal. So, if you pride yourself on being unbothered, ask yourself honestly, are you calm, or are you just closed? Because one leads to freedom, the other leads to emptiness. Emotional mastery is not about being unfeeling. It's about feeling fully, but responding wisely. The Stoics never told men to silence their hearts. They taught them to train their reactions, because emotion is energy, and, like fire, it can either warm you or burn you, depending on whether you control it or it controls you. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, death, and chaos daily, yet his writings pulse with empathy. He never said, "Don't feel." He said, "Don't let what you feel dictate who you are." That's the difference between suppression and strength. Suppression buries pain until it poisons you. Strength observes pain until it teaches you to master emotion. The Stoics practiced awareness before action. When anger rises, pause. When sadness comes, breathe. When anxiety whispers, watch it without judgment. This gap between feeling and reaction is where wisdom lives. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by the opinions we form about them. That means every emotion is a message, not a command. In modern terms, you don't have to kill your feelings to stay composed. You just need to stop being owned by them. Let anger remind you where boundaries are needed. Let fear show you what you care about. Let loneliness point you back toward purpose. Every emotion, when interpreted through reason, becomes a tool instead of a trap. Seneca called this tranquillitas animi, the calm of the soul. It doesn't mean a life without storms, but a mind that remains steady through them. So don't aim to be cold, aim to be clear. Don't silence emotion, understand it. When you can sit with discomfort without reacting, when you can feel deeply but stay composed, you've achieved what the Stoics call true power. Command over yourself. By now, you can see that loneliness doesn't just come from being alone. It often comes from the wrong way of connecting. In this section, we've uncovered how men, in their effort to escape isolation, fall into 3 social traps that only deepen it. And we've seen how Stoic philosophy turns those traps into lessons for maturity and balance. The first mistake was seeking value through attention. In a culture built on constant noise, men chase visibility to prove existence. But the more they beg to be seen, the less they truly are. The Stoic remedy: replace attention with intention. When your actions are guided by purpose instead of applause, peace becomes your default state, not a prize you have to earn. The second mistake was avoiding relationships instead of building them. Many men, burned by pain, mistake distance for safety. But isolation isn't strength. It's fear that has learned how to sound logical. The Stoic solution: connect with purpose, not dependency. Choose company that sharpens your mind, not company that merely soothes your loneliness. And the third mistake was confusing coldness with strength. Men shut down their emotions thinking it's control. But numbness is not mastery. It's surrender in disguise. The Stoic answer: master emotion without erasing it. Because true power isn't about feeling nothing. It's about feeling deeply and still standing tall together. These lessons form the second pillar of Stoic resilience. Act with intention. Connect with discernment. Feel with discipline. The modern world will tell you that emotional detachment and social armor make you untouchable. But Stoicism teaches the opposite, that wisdom lies in engaging the world calmly, not avoiding it. When your purpose guides your interactions, you no longer seek validation, you radiate clarity. Now that we've faced the external world, it's time to turn inward again, to confront the third battlefield, the mind itself. Because even the strongest man can lose himself in silence if he doesn't learn how to face his own thoughts. After all the noise fades, after the relationships end, the distractions quiet, and the world stops watching, a man is left alone with his thoughts. And that's where the hardest war begins, the battle against his own emotions. Most men don't lose to the world. They lose to themselves. They wake up heavy, irritable, anxious, and instead of facing those feelings, they bury them. They distract, deny, or drown them out with work, screens, or habits that offer quick relief. But emotions, when suppressed, don't disappear. They wait. They gather strength in silence, then return disguised as fatigue, anger, or apathy. This is what Stoics called emotional resistance, the futile attempt to fight your inner weather. You can curse the rain all you want, but it will still fall. And the more you resist, the wetter you get. Marcus Aurelius understood this paradox. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. But that power doesn't come from force. It comes from awareness. You don't dominate emotion by denial. You discipline it through understanding." In this section, we'll explore the fatal mistakes of emotional resistance and the Stoic principles that turn suffering into strength. Playing the victim of life denying your own emotions, comparing your life to others, forgetting the meaning of solitude. Each mistake is a form of self-betrayal, a way we run from ourselves while pretending to be strong. And each solution is a way back, a practice of calm clarity. That makes you unshakable, because the real test of Stoic philosophy isn't how well you endure others, it's how deeply you understand yourself when there's no one left to blame. The moment a man starts seeing himself as a victim, he trades his power for pity. It's subtle at first. He blames his past, his parents, his job, the world. He tells himself that life is unfair, that others got luckier, that his pain is special, and soon his identity becomes built around the story of what happened to him instead of what he did about it. Victimhood is seductive because it absolves responsibility. It gives temporary comfort. It's not my fault. But over time, it becomes poison. Because the more you repeat that story, the smaller your life becomes. You start waiting instead of acting, complaining instead of adapting. You convince yourself that life owes you something, when in reality, it doesn't even owe you an explanation. The Stoics saw self-pity as the most dangerous form of weakness. Epictetus was born a slave and tortured to the point of permanent injury. Yet he refused to see himself as a victim. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's not cliché, it's survival wisdom. Because as long as you believe you're powerless, you'll remain so. Modern men often confuse suffering with injustice. They think pain is proof that life is rigged against them. But the Stoics flipped that idea entirely. Pain is the classroom, not the punishment. Every difficulty you face can teach endurance, patience, and humility. If you stop asking why me, and start asking what now, playing the victim might earn you sympathy, but it robs you of respect, especially self-respect. You don't need the world to feel sorry for you. You need to feel capable again. And that begins when you stop narrating your pain and start transforming it. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, however, is a choice, a reaction you can reshape. The Stoics believed that pain is not an obstacle, but a raw material. It's the clay from which discipline, wisdom, and endurance are sculpted. The question isn't why am I in pain, but what can this pain make of me? Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, disease, and war, yet instead of collapsing under pressure, he turned every hardship into practice. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That single idea is the essence of Stoic strength. Whatever you resist will persist, but whatever you transform will empower you. To live by this principle means to reframe suffering. Instead of saying, "I'm unlucky," say, "I'm being trained." Every frustration becomes an exercise in patience. Every rejection, a lesson in self-respect. Every failure, a test of endurance. Pain then becomes feedback, not fate. And discipline, not comfort, becomes your refuge. That's how the Stoic mind operates. It doesn't run from discomfort. It repurposes it. Modern men often try to numb pain through distraction, endless scrolling, alcohol, short-term pleasure. But every time you avoid pain, it grows stronger in the shadows. The only way out is through. Face it, name it, use it. When you treat pain as a teacher, something changes inside you. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. You realize that the same fire that can burn you can also forge you, if you stand in it long enough to learn. Discipline, in Stoicism, isn't punishment, it's liberation. Because a man who can endure discomfort voluntarily becomes unbreakable when life imposes a dot, so the next time life hurts, don't reach for escape. Reach for effort, because on the other side of pain lies peace. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. Many men believe strength means silence. They grow up hearing, real men don't cry, don't show weakness, control yourself. So they learn to bury their emotions so deep that even they can't find them anymore. They think that by hiding pain, they're proving resilience. But in truth, they're just carrying invisible weight that crushes them slowly. The danger of denial is that it doesn't erase emotion, it just drives it underground. Anger becomes sarcasm, sadness becomes apathy, fear becomes control. You stop feeling one emotion, and soon you stop feeling anything. The Stoics are often misunderstood as emotionless statues, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Marcus Aurelius felt fear, loss, and grief, but he didn't let those feelings dictate his character. Epictetus reminded his students that emotions are natural, even inevitable. What matters is not whether you feel, but how you handle what you feel. Modern men, trapped by performance culture, try to outthink their emotions instead of understanding them. They distract themselves with work, with noise, with busyness. They treat stillness like danger because it threatens to reveal everything they've been avoiding. But emotion, when acknowledged, becomes information. It tells you where you've been hurt, what you care about, and what needs attention. Denying it only blinds you to your own humanity. Seneca wrote, "He suffers more who hides his suffering, because the longer you pretend to be fine, the more disconnected you become from others and from yourself." The truth is, emotion isn't the enemy of logic. It's the signal that reason must enter. A Stoic doesn't suppress his feelings. He studies them. He asks, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Not how do I get rid of it? Denying your emotions might make you look composed to the world, but inside, it turns you into a ghost of yourself. And that's not control. That's quiet collapse. The Stoics taught that you cannot master what you refuse to see. And this is where real emotional strength begins, not in suppression, but in observation. Before you can overcome an emotion, you must be willing to sit with it, study it, and strip it of the power that comes from misunderstanding. Epictetus compared emotions to visitors knocking at the door. You don't have to invite them in and let them stay, but you must first open the door and see who's there. That's awareness. Most men, however, either slam the door shut or throw it wide open. They either deny emotion completely or drown in it. Stoicism teaches the third way: to watch without panic, to feel without surrender. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every day. When anger rose, he would write, "Remember, this is not what you wanted. It's just a feeling, not a fact." He trained himself to recognize emotions as signals, not sentences. That's what modern men must relearn. Emotions are data, not destiny. Observation is a skill. It starts with pausing before reacting, a single breath between impulse and response. That breath is where mastery is born. When you observe, you turn emotion from chaos into clarity. You begin to see that sadness can carry gratitude, that anger can point toward boundaries, that fear can reveal what truly matters. Seneca advised his students to perform a daily self-examination. When the day is over, I review what I have done. What did I do well? What could I have done better? That ritual isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because what you can name, you can manage. The Stoic goal is not to feel nothing. It's to understand everything that passes through the heart. Only then can reason step in and lead with calm instead of chaos. Observation doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. And precision, in emotion and in life, is what separates the wise from the wounded. Comparison is the thief of peace, and yet, it's the modern man's daily ritual. From the moment you wake up, you're surrounded by reminders of who's doing better. Someone's richer, fitter, happier, more loved. Their highlight reel becomes your measuring stick, and with each scroll, your self-worth quietly erodes, replaced by envy dressed as motivation. This is one of the most corrosive mistakes lonely men make, turning life into a scoreboard. You start believing that success, love, or respect exist in limited supply, and that someone else's win means your loss. You stop seeing your path as unique and begin living like a contestant in a race you never agreed to run. The Stoics saw this trap long before social media existed. Seneca warned, "No man can be happy if he looks up to someone else." He knew that constant comparison breeds misery because it shifts focus from mastery to measurement. When your eyes are always on others, your progress becomes invisible. The truth is, envy is a mirror that reveals what you've neglected. When you feel jealous of someone's success, it's not because they have more. It's because you stopped developing in that area yourself. Envy isn't a signal to hate others. It's a reminder to work on yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste what remains of your life wondering what others are doing." He understood that inner peace requires tunnel vision, attention fixed on what's in your control, not what's beyond it. Comparison drains energy that could have built discipline, relationships, or mastery. The cruel irony is that those you envy also compare themselves to others. It's an endless loop of dissatisfaction. And the more you play the comparison game, the more your life becomes reactive, not intentional. You don't need to run faster than others. You need to walk steadily on your own path. Because real freedom begins the moment you stop competing with people and start competing with the man you were yesterday. The Stoic path is not a race against others. It's a lifelong refinement of the self. Progress, not comparison, is the true measure of a man. Because when you chase someone else's pace, you lose your rhythm. But when you compete only with who you were yesterday, you reclaim direction, focus, and peace. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He meant that growth is often invisible to the world. The crowd may not notice your small victories, the day you controlled your temper, resisted distraction, or stayed calm in conflict. But those are the quiet triumphs that define real evolution. And the only standard worth measuring against is your own progress. Marcus Aurelius reinforced this idea when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the Stoic challenge, to live your philosophy, not perform it. Every day becomes a new arena where your opponent is the version of yourself that procrastinates, complains, or reacts impulsively. The practical application is simple but powerful. Reflect daily. Before bed, ask, was I better than I was yesterday? In patience, clarity, or effort, set internal goals. Measure success not by results, but by alignment. Did you act according to your principles today? Practice humility. Growth is not about perfection. It's about progress sustained through discipline. When you focus on your own lane, jealousy turns into inspiration. And comparison turns into gratitude. You stop craving other people's validation because improvement itself becomes its own reward. Seneca said, "There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self." That's the Stoic's quiet revolution. Because the man who conquers himself daily will, in time, surpass everyone chasing applause. So forget the scoreboard. The race worth running begins every morning, between who you were and who you choose to become. There's a moment in every man's life when silence stops being peaceful and starts feeling heavy. He sits alone, not in meditation but in discomfort, scrolling endlessly, filling the air with background noise, anything to avoid that quiet hum of self-confrontation. This is the tragedy of the modern age. Men have forgotten how to be alone without feeling abandoned. Solitude, once the forge of wisdom, has become something people run from. We used to walk in silence to think. Now, we scroll in silence to forget. But the more you avoid solitude, the louder your emptiness becomes. And eventually, being alone starts to feel like proof that something's wrong with you, when in truth, it's the most natural condition of human existence. Marcus Aurelius spent years in military camps, surrounded by men yet profoundly alone. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He didn't fear solitude, he sought it. Because solitude isn't loneliness, it's alignment. It's where your mind returns to balance after being scattered by the world. But when men forget this meaning, they begin to fill their lives with noise, constant socializing, meaningless relationships, endless consumption, mistaking movement for progress and company for connection. And in doing so, they lose their ability to hear themselves think. Seneca warned, "If you are never alone, you will never be yourself." That's the cost of this mistake. A man who can't face silence will never discover strength. Because silence doesn't expose weakness, it reveals truth. So if solitude feels unbearable, it's not the solitude that's the problem. It's what it's showing you. Solitude isn't punishment. It's the mirror of your inner world. And only by standing still before that mirror can you begin to change what you see. Stillness is not emptiness. It's control, the quiet center of a storm that no longer frightens you. The Stoics saw stillness as the highest expression of wisdom, because when your mind is calm, nothing external can command you. You become the master of response, the architect of meaning, the author of your own inner peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions, than your own soul." That was his reminder amid wars, politics, and betrayal, that true freedom is not geographic but psychological. You don't have to flee the world to find peace. You just have to stop letting it live rent-free in your head. Stillness begins with acceptance. When you stop resisting pain, stop denying emotion, stop comparing paths, and stop running from solitude, you finally return to the present. This is what the Stoics meant by living according to nature. Nature doesn't hurry, and yet everything gets done. The waves don't fight the tide, they move with it. The same principle applies to you. Let's recap the lessons of emotional resistance. Stop playing the victim. Life is not unfair. It's training. Transform pain into discipline. Hardship isn't your enemy, it's your gym. Acknowledge your emotions. Feel them, but don't feed them. Observe before reacting. Awareness precedes mastery. Stop comparing. Compete only with yesterday's self. Embrace solitude. Use stillness to rebuild your spirit. These practices lead to what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of unshakable peace. It's not the peace of avoidance, but of understanding. A calm born from strength, not from ignorance. So when the noise of the world fades to night and the silence returns, don't reach for a distraction. Sit with it, breathe, because in that stillness lies the freedom you've been chasing everywhere else. And when you master that, nothing and no one can disturb you again. When we reach the end of this journey, it becomes clear that loneliness was never the enemy. It was the mirror, showing you the untrained parts of your soul, the weaknesses you were meant to confront, and the strength you were meant to build. Every moment of isolation, every silence you once feared, was a lesson in disguise. And through the lens of Stoicism, those lessons transform into something powerful: clarity, courage, and peace. Let's take a breath and retrace what we've uncovered. In the beginning, we saw how loneliness begins not with absence, but with confusion. When a man forgets who he is, he waits for validation, confuses solitude with worthlessness, and blames circumstances for his pain. But when he builds inner standards, turns solitude into strength, and controls what's within his power, he reclaims himself. Then we stepped into the social world, where many men lose themselves again. They chase attention instead of purpose, hide behind emotional walls instead of building relationships, and mistake coldness for strength. Yet through Stoic discipline, we learn to replace attention with intention, connect with purpose, and master emotion without erasing it. Finally, we entered the inner battlefield, the realm of emotional resistance. Here, men fall when they play the victim, deny their emotions, compare their lives, or lose the meaning of solitude. But the Stoic doesn't fight his mind. He studies it. He transforms pain into discipline, observes before reacting, competes only with himself, and finds freedom in stillness. These 12 lessons reveal one truth: the path to peace is not escape, but engagement. You don't overcome loneliness by filling your life with noise. You overcome it by understanding silence. You don't find strength by closing your heart. You find it by opening it, wisely, courageously, intentionally. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's where this journey ends, and where yours begins. Because once you stop waiting to be understood and start striving to understand, once you stop fearing solitude and start learning from it, once you stop resisting life and begin cooperating with it, you become untouchable. Not because the world changes, but because you do. And that's the essence of Stoic power. Peace that cannot be taken, because it was never borrowed. If this message spoke to something in you, that quiet, restless part of your mind that's tired of pretending to be fine, then take this moment seriously. Because peace doesn't arrive by accident. It's built, one deliberate thought at a time. The men of StoicCraft aren't chasing trends or seeking sympathy. We're learning to stand still in chaos, to stay kind in a cruel world, to act with reason when emotion demands reaction. And you can walk that path too, starting now. Ask yourself tonight, what lesson from this video do I need to live tomorrow? Maybe it's silence instead of complaint. Maybe it's discipline instead of distraction. Maybe it's compassion instead of coldness. Whatever it is, practice it once, then again and again, until it becomes part of who you are. If you found value here, leave a comment below. Which Stoic idea hit you the hardest? And how will you apply it in your life? And if you want to keep growing through these reflections, subscribe to StoicCraft. Because this is where ancient philosophy meets the modern struggle, where men learn not just to endure, but to evolve. Remember, you can't always control what happens, but you can always control who you become because of it. Now, breathe deeply. The world will keep testing you, but you're ready, because stillness is no longer your weakness. It's your strength.